As I mentioned earlier, it's the final days of the 7th Assembly, and lawmakers in the Senate and the House of Representatives are giving attention to some important bills. The House of Representatives passed the 2015 budget and the Senate passed the amended Criminal Justice Bill. Now let's take a look at some of the key activities in the National Assembly during the week. The National Assembly during the week suspended plenary to honor the late Senator Uche Chukwumerije, who died last Sunday. Federal lawmakers from the Senate and the House of Representatives took turns to sign a condolence register at the entrance of the Senate chamber. Senate President David Mark and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Aminu Tambuwal, described the late Senator Uche Chukwumerije as a national hero who was a pan-Nigerian and an unrepentant crusader for the respect for human rights and rule of law.
Right up to the time of his first election into the Senate in 2003, Senator Uche Chukwumerije has consistently played key roles in shaping the course and character of our beloved country. A three-time ranking senator in the Fourth Republic, a minister of the federal government in the Third Republic, the National Publicity Secretary of the People's Redemption Party, PRP, in the Second Republic, the Biafran Director of Propaganda in the Civil War, and an ardent socialist.
It is sad and indeed unfortunate that we have lost distinguished comrade Senator Uche Chukwumerije. He was a distinguished Nigerian, a very, very committed and patriotic one for that matter. And he has paid his dues. He did well as a senator representing his people, his constituency from Abia State. And when he was a minister in the federal cabinet under President Babangida.
Legislative activities resumed the following day after the National Assembly mourned the late Senator Uche Chukwumerije. The House of Representatives finally passed the 2015 budget. The House of Representatives passed the sum of 4.493 trillion naira as budget for the year 2015 fiscal year. The House increased the budget by 135.4 billion naira from the 4.357 trillion naira proposed by the executive. The sum of 2.607 trillion naira was appropriated for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 642.8 billion naira was appropriated for capital expenditure and statutory transfers. Education received the highest allocation of 392.2 billion, followed by defense with 326.6 billion naira. Police formation and commands with 303.8 billion naira, while the sum of 236.9 billion naira was appropriated for the health sector and 120 billion naira was appropriated for the National Assembly.
In doing this budget, the figures that came, the proportion between the recurrent and the capital expenditure was just so wide. It wiped off completely whatever gains or benefits we thought we had made with the 2014 appropriation bill or budget that was passed. So the decision that was taken by the National Assembly was to make sure that the proceeds that accrued from the $1 addition to the benchmark was used, especially, and that is talking about the federal government component, because every increase in benchmark, the federal government, the states, and the local governments benefit. So the figure for the federal government was devoted entirely to increase the capital expenditure for 2015 in order to see how much we can reduce what the gap is between the recurrent and the capital. In spite of what we did, that gap is still so huge, and the hope going forward is that we'll continue to work with the executive to make sure that this gap is closed as much as possible.
The back and forth between the executive and the National Assembly over the amendment of the 1999 Constitution continued during the week. You will recall that President Goodluck Jonathan vetoed the Constitution Amendment Bill, raising several issues. One of the issues the president raised was that not less than 4/5 majority members of each houses of the National Assembly was required to amend the Constitution, and demanded that evidence be made available to show this was complied with. Briefing journalists in the National Assembly, the House Minority Whip, Samson Osage, said the 4/5 requirement was met as evident in the votes and proceedings of 24th July 2013. Representative Osage also explained why the National Assembly amended Section 58 of the Constitution, which looks at the President's failure to assent to a bill passed by the National Assembly.
30 days requirement is not a new introduction into the Constitution by the National Assembly in this amendment process. The only new thing that has been done by the National Assembly is to introduce an amendment to the effect that should the President fail to assent to a bill already sent to him, or refuses to assent to a bill, or communicate with the House or the National Assembly his decision not to assent to a bill, the bill shall automatically become a law. The amendment was made to cure the current practice where bills are sent to the President for assent, but he neither assents nor indicates withholding of assents. Sometimes after months, much more than 30 days required by the Constitution.
After President Jonathan vetoed the Constitution Amendment Bill, the Senate asked President Jonathan to send the original copy of the Constitution Amendment to the Senate. Both houses have also been holding several meetings on the matter, but it is not clear at the moment what the next line of action will be.